Ladies and gentlemen, go for a wild, wild ride with the Honey Badgers. But beware, the sweetest kittens have the sharpest claws. For your own safety, strap yourself in and hold onto something as we enter the Pussycat Cast. Taboo topics.
Wait a second. Men are human too.
Marginalized men. Uncomfortable truths.
You suck!
The Pussycats aren't afraid of heavy lifting.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pussycat Cast number 2, Women's Strike, a day without a sandwich. And I am joined by my panelists. Today's panelists are our polecat punster turned part-time pussycat pugilist, Hannah. Anna, my legs go all the way up, Cherry, who has the most kissable brain I know. Our very special guest, the principled, passionate, plucky, and pleasant Prim Reaper. And the pickle in this clam bake, myself, the Supreme Doge in charge. So, let us go right into the topics. I will start with the first one. A proposed Tennessee bill to protect freedom of speech on college campuses has been named the Milo Bill, after Breitbart senior editor Milo. Yiannopoulos, that is. The bill, which has the full name of the Tennessee Freedom of Speech on College Campus Bill, will be known more informally as the Milo Bill. It is set to be officially filed after around 2 years of development on Thursday. A press conference will follow. According to a source involved at the press conference, the bill would stop events from being canceled based on harassment, if the harassment could simply be defined as an opposing point of view, and will boast a variety of other features that seek to protect students who have opposing beliefs to that of their college or administrators. So that's basically that first story in brief. I think it's pretty cool, but at the same time, I don't know that I would want to feed Milo's ego that much. But I thought it was kind of interesting. Do any of you guys have any thoughts? I know that we just lost Anna. She'll be back, I'm sure.
I think it's a sad day when we have to have a bill in the United States to protect something that is recognized in our Constitution as a fundamental human right. We actually have to have a bill that says, yeah, it's important to protect this. And it doesn't really matter to me how much we name it after a person, you know, how much that might feed his ego. It's very gut-wrenching to see that we have gotten to a point where there are that many people in the country that they think that it's okay to silence ideas instead of confronting them. And if they're bad, criticizing them. And if they're good, or if you can't come up with a valid criticism of them, considering them. It's heartbreaking. But it's good that it's being addressed.
That's true. Prim, you wanted to speak up. By the way, I should probably have allowed you to say hello to everyone. You do have a YouTube channel with a couple of videos on it.
Yeah, I'm starting to try and put out more videos where I can. I've got one I'm preparing right now, but I was preparing to go on the stream with you guys over the last couple of days, so I will probably have that out in the next couple of days. But yeah, it's really nice to be here. I'm really grateful that you guys invited me for this.
It's good to have you.
And what I was gonna thanks. And what I was gonna say about with what Hannah was saying is that really, I think it's just become a matter of it's not agree to disagree anymore. It feels often like if you're not with us, you're evil. Like you should be silenced, and it's just a shame that it's become that way these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would have to echo the same sentiment. I mean, I'm glad that there is some more pushback happening, and people are starting to really reject this authoritarianism that's coming out. But it's a shame that it even needed to be a thing in the first place. So hopefully this will be the start of a trend that'll grow. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I'll go on to the next story. These are the brief ones. So All right, next story. I thought this was kind of funny. The parody Twitter account known as @Meninist has been suspended for a gross non-violation of Twitter's terms of service. Maybe Twitter could suspend feminist accounts too, because equality? At the time of its suspension, the Meninist tweet account had 1.3 million followers. We don't actually know the actual reasons why it was suspended. Technically, if there was a certain tweet that, was the catalyst for this, but the Meninist tweet is gone for now, which is sad. So, does anybody have any thoughts on that? You guys know about the Meninist tweet account? I know Hannah knows, but
all I know is this is just one more example. It's like maybe they said something stupid, maybe they didn't, but it would be better to know what they said that was objectionable instead of having it hidden. Because now, of course, they've set it up so that people can rail over it, people can rally to it, and nobody knows whether they did something abusive or not.
Yeah, I know. They used to be really funny, so I love their tweet. The Meninist tweet, in case you guys don't know, all it was a parody of feminism that just replaced, the kind of rhetoric that feminists use with a male version to sort of show how stupid a lot of the feminist complaints were, and to
that's probably why they were suspended.
Yeah, probably.
you can't demonstrate that feminism is stupid. They don't like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was gonna say I had always thought that it was just kind of a satire on the whole thing. Like I can't even believe that it got suspended. That's just hilarious to me. It kind of demonstrates the point.
Exactly. I mean, look, it's operated by someone named @JewCup and @Hello Minivan or Hello Imvian. Maybe I don't know. I can't pronounce it, but JewCup though. So yeah, totally a parody account. It was never meant to be serious. They sold shirts and hoodies that said Meninist on them. People have actually been attacked for that without knowing that it was a parody account. There was some kid, I think he sent out a photo of himself with a hoodie that he bought that said Meninist, or maybe it was a t-shirt or something. And there were people that were sending out photos of him on Twitter threatening to, do him physical harm because they didn't know that Meninist tweet was just, again, it was just humor, comedy. They have no, they're not activists. They don't do anything in that regard. They just make fun of feminism. So,
well, I mean, even if it was a thing that was supposed to be in support of men or whatever, it's really sad to me that there were people threatening to attack this person just because. It just drives me nuts. This is one of the reasons why I decided to make a channel, was to call out dumb shit like this.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so next story, and these are the last of the little stories. In the UK, young men today will earn £12,500 less in their 20s than the generation before them, according to a think tank, partly as a result of taking on low-paid jobs previously done by women. Torsten Bell, the director of the Resolution Foundation, will argue that evidence showing Generation Y, also known as the Millennials, earn less than their Generation X predecessors in every year between 22 and 30 was a blow to the idea that each age group should be better off than the last. In a lecture in Manchester on Thursday, Bell will show that women have adapted better to changes in the workplace brought on by automation in the past 25 years. Women have responded to the loss of secretarial jobs by moving into higher skilled positions, whereas many of the men who lost manufacturing roles have ended up in lower skilled and lower paid occupations. This was actually interesting because it was put out by The Guardian, which is not normally a website that would acknowledge that there are conditions under which men make less money than women. So that was kind of interesting. I can go on and read more of the article if you guys want to get more info, unless you just want to speak to that. That's basically the abstract, though.
Well, the problem must be pretty open and obvious and widespread, for the Guardian to be reporting on it, because I don't think they would if it was not. They don't usually, like you said, they don't usually like to acknowledge that stuff. So it must be a pretty definitely demonstrated issue.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's probably right. They can't necessarily pretend it's not there, right?
Right. It has to be something they can't ignore before they'll acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
Or else it would have to be something that they can spin, you know, to a progressive or feminist political outlook. And I don't think there's a whole lot of way to do that except maybe pro-union.
Yeah, that's possible. Well, there is. Okay, so there is toward the end. They say, they quote someone saying, "The long-held belief that each generation should do better than the last one is under threat. Millennials today are the first to earn less than their predecessors. While that in part reflects their misfortune to come of age in the midst of a huge financial crisis, there are wider economic forces that have seen young men in particular slide back. The fact that young women have bucked this trend by moving overwhelmingly into higher skill roles is welcome and suggests that the disruptive force of automation has met its match in the forward march of education and feminism." So, Bear, there you go. Feminism is to thank for women basically making more money than men. Thank you, feminism.
Yeah, of course. Because it's not like women went into those professions ever before feminists started, making a big deal about women not being in those professions. It's not like a woman did a great deal of the programming for the computers that assisted, if I recall correctly, in the first moon landing. No, it never happened. But feminism.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's weird. There's some interesting wordplay. I don't know if it's an accident though, but the beginning of that quote that I read says millennials today are the first to earn less. While it might in part be reflecting of their misfortune, the wider economic forces that have seen this in particular slide back. So first, it's not women that are affected; it's just millennials. Period. And then, so he doesn't say this is a male problem. He says it's a millennial problem. And then the quote goes on to say, "But the fact that women are pushing back shows feminism's great. We need more of that." So it was just something I observed. All right. So anyway, I'm glad that at least the Guardian's pointing it out. We'll have to see what that means, and I hope that the market for young men trying to find work and make something of themselves. We'll have to keep watching to see if that changes and what happens with the trends. So.
Well, and it's also interesting that they're at least acknowledging that this isn't a good thing for men, because usually all you see in an article like this or a discussion like this where feminism is mentioned is, yay, women have finally surpassed men, equality, because they don't understand equality means equal and not female supremacy.
Black Knight Fool says they're afraid of the real issues, get into the mainstream, so this is the block. His wording's a little weird. He's trying to tell me there's nothing about changes made by feminism. I know it's frustrating, and it's meant to be blamed on men. So,
well, yeah. I see what he's saying. They're blaming men's masculinity as a reason for them doing worse. Yeah, then they do that regularly with issues like this too, because it keeps people from acknowledging some of the other things that are behind it. Like, I don't know how things have gone in the UK with respect to the change in the types of jobs that are available. But automation is not the only reason manufacturing jobs were lost. And this is something that they don't want discussed, and it's not just about feminism in this case. It is about the sort of progressive end of politics. This is something I've been seeing happen since I was in high school. I've seen several different factories close or move out of the country because the manufacturer, the owner, or the board or whatever, wanted to change the agreement with the employees, and the employees were willing to accept concessions with the board because of profitability, because of losses in the market, and because they knew that the thing that their union was asking was not sustainable. That they were asking the company to spend more money on the employees than the company was making from the employees' work over time. And this was something this has happened with numerous different plants. And I've seen friends and family members lose jobs and have to change professions or change where they were working and take lower paying jobs with different professional areas because of this. And this has been plants that have closed in communities where I lived, plants that have closed in neighboring communities to where I lived, plants that have closed in other states far away from where I live. So it's not just a local problem either. It is a problem where you get to a situation where the stiff arming the company becomes more important than protecting the workers. And it's not that having a union is bad. It's not that having the ability for the union or the workers to negotiate as a group with the employer is bad. It's that the making the employer the enemy and making the workers the enemy of the employer, that's bad. That becomes a hindrance. And when it becomes a money-making thing for the people who work for the union instead of a worker thing, a protecting the worker thing and protecting the business, then it becomes bad. Well, they don't want to talk about that. So they are going to deflect to masculinity, and they aren't going to want to talk about the fact that they're pushing for women to surpass men as opposed to pushing for women to be treated fairly in the workplace, which is all women have the right to. They don't have the right to receiving something that is equal to what a man is receiving, whether they work for it or not. We have the right strictly and only to fair treatment in the workplace, just like men have the right to fair treatment in the workplace. They don't want to talk about any of that. They only want to celebrate women and demonize men.
There you go. Anybody else? I don't know. I wasn't looking at the Google Hangout. I'm managing multiple windows, so I apologize. Otherwise, we'll get on to Hannah's story. So Hannah, why don't you tell us about Georgia? This was relatively recent, so I'm not entirely in the loop on this one.
It's another area that, like, the need for it almost makes me want to cry. The fact that it's another area that we're in a situation where we're having to look at legislation to remind the country and people in general that this fundamental human right that our Constitution recognizes as a fundamental human right is a fundamental human right that should be protected. So on to the story. Georgia legislators are considering a bill, HB 51, that would add a layer of due process on university campuses that was once missing. HB 51 sponsors include Earl Reinhardt, Rich Golick, Regina Quick, and Trey Kelly. The bill has passed a subcommittee hearing, and at the time of this writing is approaching the full appropriations committee. If this passes, the bill hits the floor and starts over with the Senate. Under existing law, a student accused on campus of sexual misconduct may face significant disciplinary measures and take a significant hit to his reputation without being afforded the right to due process. At the same time, the law shields actual criminals from prosecution by substituting campus courts for real courts. Campus administrators are required to replace the local justice system under which a criminal allegation would result in a police report, investigation, potential charges, and a courtroom trial with a tribunal in front of university administrators in which the accused student is barred from bringing witnesses or representation, and exculpatory evidence may be arbitrarily deemed irrelevant. But if he is found guilty, there is no imprisonment. This has led to numerous lawsuits by students whose academic careers and professional prospects have been destroyed by such disciplinary measures and defamation. And at the same time, if any of the students found guilty under the university campuses are guilty, they're getting away with committing potential felonies without going to jail.
Holy shit.
Georgia's House consistently worded, or Georgia's House's concisely worded Bill 51 would withhold funding from universities which violate students' due process rights in this manner and which fail to forward felonious accusation or accusations of felonious behavior to law enforcement. Campus personnel would be required to report allegations of felony crimes to the local district attorney. It would then be up to the DA whether the allegation merits prosecution. The law would require that any campus investigation would be done by state-certified campus police, and then no disciplinary action for a felony crime would be taken unless the student was actually found officially guilty of said crime. Feminists have, needless to say, freaked out over the proposed bill and are attempting to mount compelling opposition to it because how dare legislators relegate criminal justice issues to the criminal justice system when there are angry women to appease? Legislators need to hear from supporters of due process rights and the criminal justice system to encourage them to consider this bill and the importance of protecting these rights.
All good. All good. Doesn't matter. Basically, I agree that this should be a no-brainer. I mean that it's kind of obvious that, well, it should be obvious that people should be afforded the right to a fair trial. I've seen so many people, feminists, unfortunately, just saying, oh no, like they're the rapists, they should be the ones that should be getting all this punishment. And half the time they're not even guilty of it, they're just being accused. And it just really bothers me. I've always thought that the names in these kinds of cases should be kept entirely private, and the details should be kept private until everything's been finished and dealt with and the guilt has been determined, right?
At least there should be equal treatment on that. When an accuser makes an accusation, their name is kept out of the media, but the accused is blasted all over anything that decides to publish stories about the accusation. Now, if the accuser's name is going to be kept private, then the accused also should. If the accused's name is going to be made public, then the accuser also should. I would even go so far as to say, if we are going to keep a list of dangerous sex offenders that are labeled for all of their neighbors to see, we should keep a list if it's proved that an accusation is false. Beyond a reasonable doubt, there's video that shows that the person didn't do what they're being accused of. Something like that. There should be a false accuser list. And that list should be referenced when further accusations are made. If somebody turns out to be a serial false accuser, that needs to be subject to legal repercussions as well. If you make a false accusation and you've done so in violation of laws against things like lying to police officers during an investigation, filing false charges, perjuring yourself, that needs to be addressed. The laws need to be enforced, and there absolutely should be a list, and it absolutely should say what you did. All of what you did. Or we ought to get rid of the sex offender list. One or the other.
Exactly. Like these people, the people that are accused, they have their lives ruined, and the people that accuse them so often don't even get any punishment for it. Even if afterwards they're found out to be innocent, doesn't matter at that point, it's too late.
Yeah, there's just two, pedophilia and rape. Those are the big ones.
Imagine for a second if your campus was going to have hearings on other crimes like this.
Hold on. Oh, I was muted. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Hannah. Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
imagine if your campus decided that, you could accuse somebody of murder, and the campus would have the hearing. And it wouldn't matter if there was a body or not. It wouldn't matter if you had exculpatory evidence, showing that you had not killed somebody. Wouldn't matter. Like the person could come in and say, "He killed me. I'm dead," and you wouldn't be able to argue against that. You wouldn't be able to have a lawyer there. And just imagine if actual murder allegations, like real murder allegations, where there is a body and there is suspicion of murder, if those were heard on campus too, you'd have the same thing. You'd have people getting away with murder. Maybe they'd get kicked out of school, but they wouldn't go to jail. And then at the same time, you could have people being accused of murder to kick them out of school when they didn't do it, when they didn't kill anybody. In fact, the person who is being alleged to be a victim isn't dead. In fact, you could use murder allegations to preemptively defend yourself against murder allegations, as one student did. I can't remember the names in the story, but there was a guy on one university campus who passed out, and while he was unconscious, he was molested by his roommate's girlfriend, who then turned around and filed an allegation under this tribunal system, and he was kicked out of school for being raped. So you have this situation where if it was any other crime, any other type of accusation, we would never accept this. We would never accept substituting kangaroo courts on a university campus where we do not follow the standards for evidence and we do not follow due process in order to make sure that when we convict somebody of a crime, we do it because they committed the crime and not because somebody's mad at them or defending themselves against being convicted of what they did. And we make sure that if somebody did commit a crime, that we're not just saying, well, go away and you leave us alone and we'll leave you alone, and that's it. And you're not getting any other penalty. Not to say that losing your career isn't a penalty, but the prison system isn't just there for penalty, it's there for containment and rehabilitation. And if somebody is actually dangerous, like they actually are committing felonious assault of any type, whether it's sexual or not, then they should be locked up, not just kicked out of school.
Yeah, so I want to apologize to the stream for the mute. That was my bad. But basically what I was saying, because I was talking and that's why, I was basically saying what Hannah was saying. This kind of accusation is special. It can ruin someone. And that's mainly because we do have such a negative outlook on people who would rape other people. And it was just like what Anna was saying. The only thing that comes close to as being as bad as murder, if not worse, is things like rape and pedophilia. So, Prim Reaper.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, you guys mentioned the rape culture earlier, and it's funny that they would even say that when the reason that all of this hysteria comes up in the first place is because we're all so crazy about making sure that nobody gets raped and everybody gets justice for it. So under this system, it kind of really seems like nobody gets justice either way. So it needs to change for sure. Exactly.
There's another thing I want to point out. I have had the argument made to me by feminists when discussing this issue that the guy could just go to another school. And there's a few reasons why that argument is wrong. The first one is he shouldn't have to. If he didn't do anything wrong, it is not somebody's right for their own feelings to get him kicked out of the university that he chose to go to. He has as much right to go to the university as his choice as anybody else. That's the first thing. The second thing is Many, many people are at their universities based on funding that they received that has been given to the university. And if they get kicked out, that funding doesn't get returned. So he'll still owe his Pell Grants. He'll still owe his Stafford loan. He'll still owe back any other money that he's borrowed. And on top of that, if he's received grants that are contingent on him graduating before, they're grants and not loans, he'll have to pay those back. And he can't get those transferred to another school. The school has been paid. The school keeps the money. What is he going to use to pay to go to another school? So it's not just he can just go to another school. It is you have taken away his ability to complete his degree.
Yeah. I don't know that there's much else to add to this story. Oh, I wanted to ask a question about it. So this bill, does it look, do you know, based on the information you have, how promising things look for it passing? And if so, maybe it will pass in other states as well, because I don't think this problem is not unique to Georgia. So
this bill is highly threatened. And it's not threatened because it doesn't make sense to pass it. It's threatened because feminists are freaking the fuck out over it. They are calling it a pro-rape bill. Because and what they're basically saying is relegating a criminal justice issue to the criminal justice system denies justice to the accusers. And they are going with that. They are writing to their legislators. They are calling. They are sending emails. They are doing everything they can, rallying against this. So its chances depend on people who value due process, people who want to see the justice system handle criminal justice issues, and not college professors who may have an agenda or who may just not understand how the rights and the law work, handling it. If you value that, they need you to write to them and call them and tell them what you think. And it doesn't matter if you live in Georgia or not, because feminists are rallying from all over the country and outside the country. Now, if you visit the Honey Badger Brigade's blog, there is an article up about this. It's titled Support GA House Bill 51 to Ensure Due Process in Universities. It's written by Sage Gerard, and he gives information on how to contact your legislators, and helps give an idea what needs to be addressed, like what specific points need to be made. So there's sort of a template that you can use to word it in your own way, but make sure you don't miss any of these points when you write or call and talk to your legislators or talk to Georgia legislators. And he does have a link to his Facebook so that you can get a hold of him on Facebook, and he can connect you with public contact info if you're not from Georgia. This is something that's a big deal. And if it does pass, it does need to be promoted in other states. This does need to be something that we all try to get done in our states, because this is a situation where every university currently is subjected to threats to their funding, their federal funding, if they don't violate due process rights and they don't fail to relegate criminal justice issues to the criminal justice system. So it is vital that we push for this.
Absolutely.
And see this succeed.
And how would we go about doing that?
Like I said, this is something that the legislators need to be contacted. So do check out that article that I mentioned. Do follow up. Do contact Sage if you're from outside the state and you need the information on how to contact the legislators. Look at the template. See how you would want to word the points that are mentioned in the template, and like I said, make contact. Let them know what's on your mind. And even if this bill doesn't pass, don't let that stop you from writing to your own legislators and writing to your federal legislators about this issue as well.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. That sounds good. I hope it goes through. Fingers crossed. But we got to do more than just hope. So it's time to, like Hannah said, reach out. Also, spread the word. Share the article with other people. Maybe get other people involved to let them know that it's very important to protect due process. Otherwise, the way things are now, it's just too abusable. So.
Yeah, actually, the more this article gets Facebooked, tweeted out, stumbled, whatever social media you share things on, the better. And it's fine that feminists know that we're on the other side here. We're contacting our legislators too, because they're gonna be contacting theirs no matter what. So it's better if they know that there's opposition, actually. And one other thing, like I said, don't get discouraged if the first time it's tried this doesn't get through. Every place that has a union, voted and voted and voted over and over and over again until they got a majority and got the union in. Every place that there's a law in place that they've pushed and pushed and pushed. We've seen them do that with TPP and some of the other laws that were intended to infringe on rights. This is how it gets done. You start pushing. If it doesn't get through the first time, you push again and again. You revise if it needs revised, and you push again. So keep contacting and keep forwarding, or keep promoting the story, and keep contacting legislators.
Yeah, follow up. Okay, so we're coming up on the last story, unless there was somebody else who wanted to say something. No, it doesn't look like it. So before we do that, though, we're gonna take a short commercial break, a short break, but we're gonna show you guys a little treat that Allison put together. So let me get that set up. And first off, I'm gonna everybody mute your things. Get ready for this. It should be fun.
We're slashing pussy in half. Give us an offer on our best selection of pussy. This is a pussy blowout. Alright, we got white pussy, black pussy, Spanish pussy, yellow pussy. We got hot pussy, cold pussy. We got wet pussy. We got smelly pussy. We got hairy pussy, bloody pussy. We got snapping pussy. We got silk pussy, velvet pussy, nalga hide pussy. We even got horse pussy, dog pussy. Chicken pussy, come on, you want pussy? Come on in, pussy lovers. If we don't got it, you don't want it. Come on in, pussy lovers.
All right, so welcome back. I just thought I'd share that real quick, because Allison threw it together. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was kind of silly, but just so you know where we're coming from. We're all about the pussy on the Pussycat Cast. So, I'm waiting for Prim Reaper to step away, but we might as well go into the last story. All right, she is back. So this is basically the main one we probably could talk about for a bit. So, the Women's March. The Women's March began with a call for a march in Washington the day after President Donald Trump's inauguration, after millions showed up for events across the world, including a massive turnout within the nation's capital itself. The organizers committed to building the event into an effective movement. The Women's March website lists a series of 10 actions that are to be undertaken within the first 100 days of the Trump presidency. The first 3 actions listed involved organizing and contacting elected representatives. But the call for a general strike would be a return to the streets and a physical jab at the economy. At a time when our foundational principles of freedom and equality are under threat, the Women's March is committed to engaging in actions that affirmatively build community, strengthen relationships, and support local women and minority-owned businesses. According to the Women's March, which they said in a statement praising boycotts of companies that supported Trump and others that brought the corporate practices of Uber and Nordstrom to light. The general strike is a tactic born among labor-oriented political movements where groups of people all leave their places of work to demand political or economic action. The statement from the Women's March indicated the general strike would also include boycotting certain businesses. The Women's March may be the most high-profile a high-profile announcement of a general strike during the Trump presidency so far, but many others, often in the political left, have also called for strikes. Writer Francine Prose called for one, writing in The Guardian following Trump's executive order suspending the refugee program and temporarily restricting travel from 7 Muslim-majority countries. A general strike planned for February 17th by Strike for Democracy currently has over 16,000 people declared on Facebook as participating. The website for this strike called for people who would protest non-violently by striking from work or school and spending a day doing community service. The February 17th strike calls for members of Congress to defend the Constitution. The Women's March had yet to issue the date for its strike, but pledged the will of the people will stand. So the idea is, this strike is called A Day Without a Woman. They haven't announced a date on it just yet. And so the idea is that women will essentially go on strike and not do any work or anything for businesses, so people will know what it's like to essentially live in a society without their help. So I thought it was funny because if there was a day without a man, the lights would go out, the water would stop running. That it would be in just pure fucking chaos. We'd have no internet. There would be no buses. There'd just be nothing would get. Everything would just be in crisis. Prim, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was just basically piggybacking off of what you were saying. No fires getting put out, all kinds of things would happen if men went on strike. But I was just kind of wondering, like, are these ladies just trying to make themselves seem fickle? Like, how many days off to protest Trump are they expecting? Or whatever else they're protesting. Like, what are they trying to prove here? Because it's certainly not that women are as hardworking, capable, or as reliable as men if they keep expecting all of these days off. Maybe it's just that they'll complain about even the slightest perception of inequality, even though there are already several laws in place preventing people from paying men and women differently. Trump has already said he's not planning to take away LGBT rights. I don't know what the plan is here. I just don't get it.
Well, hell, it'll just be an ordinary day for a lot of women. There are many, many women who do not work. And it's not as accepted when a man does it. It's not as accepted if a guy lives off of his spouse's income or lives with his dad and his mom while he's going to college for the full 4 years and doesn't get a job, or when he's getting his master's or doctorate and doesn't get a job during that time. There's a lot of women out there who, not that being a housewife isn't work, but there's a lot of women out there who do not work for a living, that do not contribute financially to the household by bringing home a paycheck. And yeah, going to PTA meetings, doing everybody's lunches, making sure everybody has everything they need. There's effort in that. But you can take time from that to go do things like this without getting fired, without getting, docked for taking more days off than you're supposed to, without actually having to ask anybody's permission to go and do it. And it's a luxury most men with families don't have. It's a lot more rare for a dad to not have a job. And to be honest, it's not all women that are in this position. It's privileged, upper middle class, one income family women where the income of their husband is enough that they don't have to work to support their family. You will not see women with 3 jobs taking a day off. because they can't afford to. You won't see women taking a day off from working at your local corner gas station or Walmart or in the nursing home where your grandparents are staying. You know, you won't see those women taking the day off. If they're the nurses' aides, at least, you won't see those women taking the day off to go do this. You'll see women taking the day off who have the luxury of not having to be responsible to somebody else every day, all the time. And that's why they're doing this, because they don't understand that responsibility.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say as well, similar in that vein, I was actually rummaging through several comments about this march that they're organizing, and I noticed a trend in the comments. The women with actually important work to be doing, like those in medical care or police women or teachers or childcare workers, they were all saying, oh, I can't participate in this because it would be actively harming others for me to take a day off to go and do that, which really just makes me feel like the other people participating in this kind of thing are really just going out of their way to inconvenience their communities.
Mm-hmm. Well,
no, they are. They're throwing a giant temper tantrum because they didn't get their way. And the Women's March itself was a giant temper tantrum because they didn't get their way. And I love how they just say, the will of the people. Like, they are the people. And the rest of us, men and women alike, who disagree with them, don't count.
Oh, yeah. And it's also important to point out that they are calling this a day without women, or a day without a woman. But it's really a day without a feminist, because women who would not call themselves feminists, as to to Prim Reaper's point, would just go to their jobs, or they would laugh about it, or find it to be whiny and silly. So, a day without a feminist? Hell, take 2. Take 3.
Take a whole lifetime.
Yes. Go nuts.
Just from watching some comments in the chat, there's been numerous comments about, what would happen if men did this. That just makes me think I would like to take the opportunity right now. If you work in infrastructure, if you're a first responder, if any of the areas that if the men took a day off, that the rest of us would all be hurting. Thank you for not doing that. Thank you for putting your neck out there. Thank you for doing the dirty jobs. Thank you for taking all of the risk so that my computer will work and I can do this. All the men who, not just the guys that keep the electricity running, but the guys that come and collect the trash, the guys that walk a beat in the neighborhoods that I've been told by the people who live there, don't come here because you'll get killed for being white. The guys who take their ambulance into those neighborhoods to pick up somebody that's been shot. Thanks to all the soldiers. Thanks to the guys that run the country. Thanks to the guys that make things work. Thanks to all of the cogs in gears. Every single one of you.
Prim?
Well, one more thing that I was going to say is that as I was going through the comments, a lot of them were saying, "Oh, well, I can't afford to take off my job. I'm not privileged enough to take this day off," and so they're even calling out privilege amongst themselves, which is great. But they're just trying to say, so why don't we just make it a don't buy things day instead? And it's like, okay. Yay for you. You take a day and don't spend anything, but like nobody's forcing you to buy most things any other day anyway. Like there's no man that's forcing you into Sephora and saying, buy this eyeliner or else.
Yeah.
Nobody's holding a gun to your head and demanding that you buy that Gucci purse or those tacky wall decals that you put up in your house. If this is really something that you find so irksome that you plan to quit for one day to just stick it to the man, then why don't you just change your lifestyle and stop buying so much worthless crap anyway?
Yeah. One would have to be pretty privileged to be able to take a day off and not worry about any of the consequences of that.
And speaking of privilege, I noticed that they're doing this after Valentine's Day.
Uh-huh. That's right.
Just saying.
Oh God, I didn't even notice that.
Well, the general they don't have a day announced for the actual Day Without a Woman, but they do, because it says to be announced. But then later in the article, because I'm looking at this is on CNN, so who the fuck knows how accurate it is. It says there's a general strike plan for the 17th. That might be a different one. I'm not really sure, because in the same article they said, oh yeah, no, it's the 17th strike calls for members of Congress to defend the Constitution. So the other one has not been announced, but they're likely not doing it until after Valentine's, considering how close we are to Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
So,
like 5 days.
Yeah.
5 days to Female Privilege Day.
Yeah, pretty much. Where's Mark Rudolph when you need him? Anyway, so I don't know. I guess that there's not much else to say about this, unless you guys have other thoughts about this Day Without a Woman strike, or
No,
more
I think
accurately.
I pretty much said everything that I had.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I guess actually we're all out of stories, so we can end the show. So I want to thank you, Prim, for coming on, and I'm sorry for.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the technical glitches, but we got it figured out, so we're good. Next time we should be a lot smoother. And I want to thank Anna and Hannah for coming on, and I want to thank you guys, especially in the chat, for being the chat and watching us, so that we're not speaking out into the void. Anna, did you you had unmuted? Were you going to say something? Anna?
Oh no, I just wanted to thank you, and that's all, and thank Prim and whatever. just the usual.
Yes, the usual. All right, we're gonna close it out then. So I want to thank you guys again for joining us on the Pussycat Cast number 2, and we're gonna go ahead and do the after show. If you want to be a part of the after show, please become a patron. www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. $1 gets you the ability to watch the after show or listen to it. And $7 or more gets you the ability to come on the after show and talk right to us and like hang out and call us assholes or whatever you want to do, but yes, you can come on the show and hang out with us. So we hope to see new faces in the after show. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next Pussycat